This is DJ the Prodigy Pen, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
Hey, this is Cain Velasquez, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Chuck Liddell, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
Hi, he's Wanderlei the ex-Murder Silva, and you listen Ringside Report Radio.
This is Tito Ortiz, the People's Champ, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Uriah Faber, the California Kid, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
This is Randy, the Natural Couture, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
Hi, this is Vito Belfer, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Jacques Saint-Pierre, and welcome to Ringside Report Radio.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
All right, welcome to the program. We are live. It is Ringside Report Radio. I am Dave Simon. Fred Garcia is here with me. Anthony D'Alesio in the house as well. Cousin Marco is in the place. We're here on TSN 690. It's Ringside Report Radio. A lot of mixed martial arts to get to over the next hour. Georges St-Pierre, some news about Montreal's greatest mixed martial artist, maybe the greatest fighter in the history of the UFC. Some betting odds for some potential opponents. Anthony is convinced that GSP is going to fight in 2018, and he's convinced it's going to be Ben Askren. And betting odds did open up today for Georges St-Pierre versus Ben Askren, but Georges St-Pierre versus a number of opponents, including Tony Ferguson, El Kukui, the UFC lightweight champion or interim lightweight champion. I'm not really sure. No one's really sure at this point. It's kind of weird. But El Kukui will be defending his title against Khabib Nurmagomedov next week at UFC 223. UFC taking another week off. It's Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Passover, everybody. As the UFC taking a little bit of a holiday, we're here on the holiday weekend, and we're happy to be here. And I'm excited for UFC 223 next week. Not only Habib versus Ferguson, but of course, Rose Namajunas fighting Joanna Jedrzejczyk, the immediate rematch for Joanna after she got knocked out in the first round. As it looked like Joanna was on her way to a record-setting title reign, here comes Rose Namajunas, a huge underdog, not supposed to win the fight, supposed to get smashed by Joanna. Rose comes in and crushes Joanna Jedrzejczyk in the first round. It was a huge shock, and we're going to see next week whether it was the real deal or just an off night for Joanna Jedrzejczyk. UFC 223 is next week. Tomorrow night there's going to be a little bit of boxing. We got some boxing news for you. Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker will be doing battle, so we'll talk about that. But I want to start a little bit with UFC 223, boys, because we were talking about it before the air, and you guys were pretty passionate about it, mostly about this Joanna and Rose fight. I think we're kind of split here on how we feel about it. Well, maybe me and Fred are on the same page, but I don't know about Anthony. As you know, the way Rose beat Joanna last time, I feel like it was by such a wide margin. I can't fathom an outcome that is that much different. Because Rose was so dominant against Joanna, because she just finished her so quickly, and Joanna really didn't have any moments during that few minutes, one round fight or whatever it was, a few minutes. She didn't have a single moment where she looked good. She was getting smashed the entire time. So for me, it's hard to imagine a rematch here so soon after that last fight where it's a completely different story. I know Joanna is saying that her weight cut was really bad and now she's on weight and everything's better, but can a really, really bad weight cut account for that type of fight against Rose Namajunas? I know a really bad weight cut can affect you for sure, but Rose dominated Joanna, and maybe next week it goes to a second round or maybe a third round. But I still think Rose comes out on top.
Okay, Dave.
Anthony.
All right.
Anthony. Okay, Dave. He doesn't like it already.
First of all, I want to thank you for calling me AJ. Thank you,
I
Dave.
never called you AJ.
Oh, you didn't? Okay,
no,
I'm
I
sorry.
called you Anthony.
Damn.
No one's
All right.
calling you AJ.
Anthony Johnson, AJ. All right.
Your name's not Anthony Johnson.
It's AJ?
No, it isn't.
All right. Anyway, so back to Rose. This is what I think. So, honestly, Dave, I mean, she's saying the same thing, that it was because of her her weight cut. It didn't work for her. There was a lot of problems, and I believe her.
Who's saying that? Joanna's saying that.
Joanna's saying that. Yeah. She's saying that she's blaming her team. The nutritionists didn't really work the game that they should have.
But can the weight cut really?
Sure, come on.
I mean, technically, Rose just dominated that fight. That's what I saw. I saw Rose dominating from
that means
the
something.
Start of that fight. So I can't see the weight cut having that much of an effect.
Fred, that says something right there, because if someone's dominating that much in the first round, there was something wrong with Joanna. There was something wasn't there, and I believe her when she says that the weight loss or the weight cut was a big difference. Well, it wasn't the same Joanna, right?
I'll add one thing to the intro Dave gave us about the fight, is that Rose defeated Joanna at Joanna's game. We all thought Joanna was like the greatest striker in the female division, and Rose outstruck her. It's like that. That's something else. That mentally is that Joanna needs to reinvent herself. She can't come in with the same game plan.
Rose showed that she's got the power as well to finish Joanna in 3 minutes and 3 seconds.
But it wasn't a lucky power shot. She outstruck her. Like, she dominated completely.
It was a lot of punches, a lot of shots that Joanna just could not handle. And I don't see Joanna being able to handle it the second time around, because Rose was just so far ahead of her.
Now, with that said, I'm down with Joanna getting a rematch. I'm thinking she was such a dominant champion. I'm trying to remember how many, because she was close to the record. So Joanna deserves a rematch. This quickly, I'm just not sure she could do anything new. I need Anthony to convince me on this one, because I'm just not there.
The fight was in November. It's not that long ago. Joanna got beat pretty badly. She got hurt pretty badly. When is the last time you saw an immediate rematch after a champion got dethroned where it went a different way? I'm thinking about a lot of champions and immediate rematches, and usually it just kind of stays the same. You know, Frankie Edgar, when he beat BJ Penn, they said, man, there's no way, that fight was in Abu Dhabi, it was kind of weird, there's no way he can do that to BJ again. And he did.
And a third time.
And a third time later on, but that was a different story, right?
Well, I mean, in all three fights, it was dominating. I mean, it didn't change. Frankie was dominating in the first time he fought BJ, and then in the rematch also, and then in the third fight, he was just a better fighter than BJ was.
Now, we have seen fighters lose a fight to somebody, have a few fights come back against that person and beat them. That can happen. But as far as an immediate rematch, usually when you fight somebody and then you fight them again, it's pretty much the same result the second time around.
Yeah, okay. Honestly.
No?
Well, you know what, Dave?
Come up with an example where it isn't.
Look, I really believe there was something wrong with her that night, and I think that weight cut was the difference. I think it's going to be a different Joanna. We're going to see. She didn't defend her title 5 times in a row for no reason. She's lost 1. Mm-hmm. Come on. We're talking about Joanna. She's one of the most exciting female fighters in the division. There's no doubt about it. Rose, I like her. There's nothing not to like about her. She comes from a really tough background. She was she was a junkie. I don't know, and came back from this.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, she had a really rough life and whatnot. She had a really rough life. But the thing is that, and I feel for her, but I think it was just a bad fight for Joanna. I mean, we were talking about that outside, right? Me and Fred were talking about that. I talked about George and Matt Serra, right?
Yeah,
remember that day?
That was different. That was a little bit different.
Why?
Because
tell me.
That was one lucky power shot.
There you go.
That Matt Serra connected. And
look,
props to Matt Serra. He connected
and George
he deserved that win.
And George came back so much stronger.
But not immediately. He fought a few times and then he got Matt Serra.
Yeah, but sometimes you need to lose. That's what makes a real champion. It's not how many times you win. It's how many times you go down, stand up, and go back at it. That's a real champion. And this is what I think is going to happen. If Joanna comes and dominates Rose, it's going to prove that she's a real champion.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
Look,
Support me, man.
When Conor McGregor lost to Nate Diaz, they ran it back, and Conor won the second time. Right?
Yeah, but
that happened.
Hold on a sec, Dave. But he only
that was
had,
an immediate.
What?
I'm trying to prove your point for you here,
Okay,
Anthony.
go
Why
ahead.
are you interrupting me?
No, because I thought you were gonna go the other way. Okay, go ahead, Dave. I'm listening.
It happened though, right? It has happened in the past where you have a fight, it's one outcome, they do it immediately after in their very next fight for both guys, and different things happen. But the Conor and Nate fight, I think, was a special circumstance because the first time around, it was on such short notice. Exactly. The second time around, Conor was able to fully prepare.
There you go.
But that isn't the case with Joanna and Rose. The first time around, they were prepared. They had promoted the fight for weeks and months, and they were ready for that date, and there you go. It's the same deal here.
Yeah.
They've prepared. This has been the date for months, and it's the rematch here.
No.
And I don't see how Joanna comes back and beats Rose next week. If she does, it'll be very impressive, and I'll be surprised, and it'll be amazing.
Let me simplify it.
But I can't see it going down.
Let me simplify it. We agree that if Joanna's going to win, it's going to be with her striking. So
Right.
do you think she's going to be a better striker in the next fight against Rose? Because I don't see Joanna becoming all of a sudden a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu submission artist. I mean, she's been a great striker all along, but she got outstruck in the first fight, so I just can't see her outstriking Rose in the next fight.
Okay.
Anthony's very frustrated. He's very upset about this, but that's just the way we see it going down,
Yeah,
Anthony. We
Fred.
can't predict it necessarily.
No.
We don't know 100%, but just the way it went down the first time, I don't think it was a fluke. I think Rose is definitely for real. She was better than Joanna on that night, and I assume that she'll be better than Joanna next Saturday as well because of how far above she was on that night back in November.
You know, she's a Polski, man. Polskis are strong.
Okay,
The Polish, I'm telling you, Fred. Dave, she's coming back, and it's going to be a
You're
different
getting flustered.
fight. What?
I
am. Do you see my
settle
fist?
down.
You can't see it on air, but
You know
I'm
what?
I'm ready to break something here.
The odds makers are going with Anthony. Joanna Jedrzejczyk right
Thank
now,
you.
minus 140, the favorite.
For real?
Yeah, man, they're
Oh,
listening
my
to me.
God.
They listen to me.
Rose Namajunas plus 110, the underdog. But look, I think BJ Penn was the favorite second time around against Frankie Edgar. I think, and there's more of these, Fred. Help me out. There's more of these times when, a champion has lost and they're like, man, I can't believe that happened. Let's do it one more time.
Let's go to an example, maybe Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen dominated 4.5 rounds against Anderson Silva. The rematch was some time after, but then Anderson Silva finished Chael Sonnen pretty quick. So
how about Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman?
Good one, yeah.
First time around, Chris Weidman beat him. People thought, there's no way Chris Weidman can do it again. And then he did. Immediate rematch. Weidman beat him again. Anderson lost 2 in a row. Great champions that are champions for a long time. Sometimes they get dethroned. And
Daniel Cormier, John Jones.
That's right, but people can't believe it. They can't believe that this person has lost. So they're like, okay, give me an immediate rematch because I need to see that again. I can't believe that happened. It must have been a fluke. It must have been an off night for Joanna. But I don't think that was the case. I think it's just Rose is the new champion. She beat Joanna, and she's going to beat her again. So, hey, I like that Rose is the underdog next week. But I'm happy with that.
Do we agree?
Plus
we still want to see it. I mean, that's the match to make right now in the Strava.
Of course.
So,
that's the number one fight. I can't wait to see it. But I feel like it'll be a similar outcome. Don't you think it's going to be maybe 1 or 2 rounds and Joanna is going to go down by TKO or KO?
No, come on.
Well, anyways, Anthony, I know you don't think that. Yeah. You think Joanna's going to win, right?
Yeah, but
how does Joanna beat Rose?
The odds makers are thinking the same thing, right?
Yes, they are. So what?
I'm thinking it's going to be the opposite way around. It's going to be TKO, and Joanna's going to knock out Rose. The Rose is going to melt. It's going to wilt. It's a melting Rose.
It's a melting Rose.
Or a wilting Rose.
Yeah, I think that's better. Fred, how do you see it going down? You think Rose is going to do similar thing to what she just did to Joanna?
I believe in Rose. I didn't at the beginning. I thought Joanna was going to win the first fight, but what I saw was a dominating performance, so I got to believe in Rose right now. She's never been knocked out in her career. I see she's been submitted once by Carla Esparza. She does have 3 losses on her record, so Rose could lose here.
Yeah, but she's 25 years old, and she's on this run right now. She's so young in the game. She's doing all the right things. I feel like she's just improving every time she goes out there. I think Rose is going to be even better than she was last time. I've listened to Rose on the Joe Rogan show, and she's very smart. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's a very smart fighter, and she's very dedicated. Not to say Joanna isn't, but I think Joanna, a little bit older than Rose, 5 years older, has had some really tough fights in there against, Valerie Letourneau and Claudia Gadelha and Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Jessica Andrade, and that takes a toll on you. It's not easy to be a UFC champion because you keep having these 5-round fights against some of the toughest fighters in the world. There's only so many punches you can take. Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson is the main event next week, and we'll give you our official predictions next week. I wonder if Anthony's going to change his mind. Are you going to change your mind next week, you think, Anthony? Because I know you got T-Ferg, Tony Ferguson, El Kakui, and you got Rose Namajunas. And I think Fred and I are both going Habib time. No, we got Habib time and Rose, and you got Joanna and Tony Ferguson, right?
Pretty much. That's it, yeah.
And what's the bet exactly, Anthony? You were talking to me on Twitter, which, by the way, you could follow me on Twitter at Dave Simon MMA. You could follow Anthony at Dan E. Bruck. And you can follow Fred at Freddie MMA. Anthony, what was this bet on Twitter where, we discussed it last week, but we never really got the terms of it?
Do we have a picture online, actually, on the Twitter feed?
What do you mean?
With the cap?
What cap?
The cap.
The Habib hat?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Get me the hat. The deal is, if Habib wins, you buy me a Habib hat?
That's the deal, man.
Why don't I get one?
I don't know.
You got a nice hat right now, Fred.
Yeah, you're wearing a hat. Yeah. I don't have a hat right now.
Yeah, I got
You guys
a ball
are both
spot.
wearing hats.
I saw the picture with Joe Rogan wearing it. It was really funny. But
so
anyways.
You're going to get me a hat if Habib wins, and if Habib loses, what do I have to do for you?
Wait, what was that, Fred? What's the bet on that?
I have no clue, man.
I'll figure something out, or make our listeners come up with something.
Well, you put something out on Twitter where if Habib won, you wanted me wearing the hat but nude.
Yeah, that's right. The birthday suit.
But but I think Habib is going to win. So if Tony Ferguson wins, I have to be nude wearing the hat?
That's it, man.
So
that's exactly what I put.
So you're saying either way I get the hat?
Either or, man.
So if Habib wins, I get the hat, but I don't have to pose nude with it. And if Habib loses, you're still going to buy me the hat and make me pose nude? That's what you want to win in the bet?
Who's taking the picture, Anthony or your girlfriend?
No, man, he's going to be walking around Bell Media here.
Why do I have to do
just
that?
With the hat.
Why do you want that to happen? I don't want to do that.
Come on.
I'm not doing that.
That's what I posted anyways.
That's not
You're
a good
absolutely
bet.
Right. Listen, we'll figure it out. Look, and not to take away from
You
Habib,
did put that on Twitter. I'm not just making that up.
No, it's up there.
Fred, he tweeted this out. Did you see that? Unbelievable.
But look, I like Habib. I really like him. I like him a lot. It's a hard fight. I didn't want to call this fight. I like both of them. They're awesome. They're both champions. They really are.
Are they interim champions or are they undisputed champions?
They're interim.
Who's the champion?
Habib said. Like Habib says is that you have a fake belt and it's probably best if you just sell it because it's worth nothing. And I kind of agree with him. It's so
if Habib wins it, is it still fake or does it mean something?
Look, if they fight here, it'll mean something.
Still fake, right?
Not really. It'll mean something because
but Connor's the real champion.
He is the real champion, but these two guys could be champions if they weren't Look, if Habib was fighting 5 years ago, he would have been champion, and Ferguson would have been the champion today. But they're both at the same time, and they're both phenomenal fighters, and it's going to be a hard one to call. But I'm leaning on the Ferguson side, and we were discussing that
How
earlier.
do you think Tony Ferguson wins?
Look, he's not going to be afraid of a takedown. There's no doubt about it. He's not nervous about Habib taking him down.
I think he should be.
I don't think so. And
I think he should be because once Habib takes him down, I don't think Tony Ferguson's going to be able to get back up.
Listen,
once Habib takes him down, I think Tony Ferguson is just going to eat punch after punch, and there's not going to be much he can do about it.
Look,
And that's really been what Habib has done to every fighter that he has seen in the UFC, including former champion Rafael dos Anjos, who's about to fight for an interim title of his own in the welterweight division.
right.
I read today that Habib plans to Darce choke Tony Ferguson.
He said that?
Yeah, Habib was trash talking at his turn because there was a lot of trash talk between the two on the conference call, so it got a little nasty and all. But hey, I'll tell you this: I'm picking Habib, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Ferguson submits him. Like Tony's not going to be scared to go to the ground because he has a good ground game. And early on, we'll see. I think we'll know early on if Habib's ground game is too much for Tony. But I could see Tony ending up with a submission.
See, Dave, Fred's on my side, man. Wow.
No.
He
I'm
is.
picking Habib. I'm picking
What?
Habib.
Okay.
I just said I believe in
Sounded
Tony
like you were coming
Ferguson.
on my side here.
He said he wouldn't be surprised if Tony Ferguson submitted Habib, and I would not be
I'm
surprised by that.
edging my bet. You know,
either.
I'm picking both sides.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Ferguson knocked Habib out standing up either. Because I think Tony Ferguson is probably a better stand-up fighter than Habib
And
is.
he has like 6-inch reach on top of him,
Yeah.
so that makes a huge difference.
If
man.
Habib can't take down Tony Ferguson, he's in big trouble. Right?
Agreed.
But I feel like Habib can take down everybody. Habib takes down Daniel Cormier in the gym.
Yeah, that's
Habib is a 155-pounder. Cormier is a 205-pound champion of the world, about to fight the heavyweight champion of the world, and maybe become heavyweight champion in the world. And Habib wrestles with that guy in practice.
and bears.
Yeah, bears too. He grew up wrestling bears. And that's not a joke. There's video of it on YouTube.
Yeah, I saw it for the first
Habib
time.
wrestles a bear.
Crazy.
Search it. Right?
Like, first of all, like
Habib is built for this. Tony Ferguson is building himself for this, but Tony Ferguson wasn't built for this since birth.
true. Very, very
Habib's
true.
father has made him a killing machine.
Yeah, that was
There's
pretty
a
insane.
difference. Habib is a different type of animal. Habib is a legendary fighting figure. Tony Ferguson is a really, really good fighter. It's a different thing. I think we're going to see that next week. I look forward to it very much. UFC 223 going down next week. What are other fights on this card? Like, what else is going on? Calvin Kattar against Renato Moicano. Okay. Michael Chiesa taking on Anthony Pettis. That's a good one. Paul Felder and Al Iaquinta. Yeah. Rage and Al Iaquinta. You know what's good about Rage and Al Iaquinta? A, his fights. B, the promo after the fight. That guy, he speaks his mind. He's not afraid to upset the UFC or the management there. Al Iaquinta is a bad man, and he's on a really good win streak right now in the lightweight division. He just doesn't fight often enough because he can't quite get it together with the UFC management, right? Like, he fought in April 2015, then took a 2-year break. He beat George Masvidal in April 2015, by the way, then took a 2-year break, fought in April of last year, beat Diego Sanchez by knockout in 1:38 seconds. Now, again, another year-long break, and Al Iaquinta coming back next week to fight. In the month of April 7th, UFC 223. Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Felice Herrig on the card next week. Joe Lozon is on the card against Chris Grutzmacher. Joe Lozon.
That's going to be good.
That's going to be great. Joe Lozon's always a good fight. Speaking of good fights, Olivier Aubin-Mercier.
That's right.
From right here in Montreal. He takes on Evan Dunham. That's a big fight for Olivier. I like that one. You got Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres against Artem Lobov on the Fight Pass prelims.
Good.
That's good, man. That's a good fight.
For a fight pass, that's awesome.
That's excellent. It is Ringside Report Radio. We are live here on TSN 690. We're going to hear from Ronda Rousey when we come back. She did some interviews on ESPN that they were a little bit weird. They didn't quite go the way you might expect. You got to hear this audio from ESPN, a couple different interviews that she did this week, promoting WrestleMania. Might talk a little wrestling with Anthony. I know Anthony's been getting excited for WrestleMania next week. And we have some boxing tomorrow night that we'll get to. A heavyweight championship on the line. Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. A special start time, though. Don't expect that fight to be on late at night. It's going to be in the evening at 5 p.m. It's Ringside Report Radio. We'll hear from Ronda Rousey and also give you some betting odds for some potential George St. Pierre super fights.
Hey, this is Cain Velasquez, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio. Hi, this is Sander Borlovsky, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Tyron Woodley, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
Welcome back. It is Ringside Report Radio. I am Dave Simon. Fred Garcia and Anthony D'Alesio in the house here with me live on TSN 690. Ronda Rousey will be appearing at WrestleMania next week in her first ever professional wrestling match. And she was doing some promotion for that on ESPN this week. And the funny thing is about Ronda now and being in the WWE is that she has to talk about her losses in MMA. And if you'll recall, back when Ronda lost to Holly Holm, she didn't go to the press conference afterwards. She didn't speak to any media. And in the build-up for her return fight against Amanda Nunes about a year later, she also didn't do any media, answered 0 questions, and anybody who did get to interview her at the time was told not to ask about the loss, and not even to ask her about fighting in certain instances. But now that she's in the WWE, she's kind of got to talk about the losses, because people are asking the questions, and enough time has passed that she's got to go and try to make nice with media and promote the WWE, because that's her new venture. She's trying to become a pro wrestler. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited for WrestleMania next week. I think it's going to be fantastic. And that's not often that you hear that from me. I know a lot of you are longtime Wrestling Uncensored listeners as well. By the way, Wrestling Uncensored tomorrow night here on TSN 690 after the Habs postgame show. Habs game tomorrow night, guys? Yeah?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, Habs game tomorrow night. So we'll be on right after the Habs post-game show for Wrestling Uncensored. And, past few WrestleManias, I haven't been that hyped going into it, but this time around, I'm very excited. And Ronda is a big reason why. Daniel Bryan also. I mean, Daniel Bryan's the main reason why I'm excited, because he's coming back.
Who's Ronda fighting?
Ronda will be teaming up with Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. And that is a shoot, by the way. Kurt Angle, legit gold medalist in freestyle wrestling. He will be teaming with Ronda against Stephanie McMahon and her husband, the Gamer, Triple H.
So we could expect, I don't know, I would say I expect Ronda to look good. I mean, the new marquee signing, she's going to win.
She probably will win, but then again, you can never bet against the Gamer. The cerebral assassin.
Hey, maybe they might look, if they make her lose right away, you put it out of the way, because if she wins and she gets on a good streak, hey, if I'm Charlotte, I'm trying to trash talk her, going, how are you going to react to that first loss, Ronda? How you going to react? You're going to run away?
Yeah, well,
you're going
to
answer questions.
That's why I think it might not be a bad idea for Ronda to lose right off the bat, so she can kind of deal with that. And that could almost be part of her gimmick, People teasing her about losing the big match at WrestleMania and her getting really upset about it and then beating people up. Not bad, right?
So you're trying to say she's going to become a villain? Well, she already is a villain,
Not necessarily. Just because she does that doesn't mean that she's a villain.
No, if she's going against Stephanie, she's a good girl.
A babyface.
Babyface.
There you go.
Yeah,
let's hear the. Did you see these interviews on ESPN this week?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Let's hear a little bit. This is Fred. You know these guys. Golic. What's his?
Golic and
Wingo.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
They're awful.
This is from ESPN.
Are they?
Let's go back and start with when you knew from the MMA, when you were done there, when you knew in your mind, I'm not going to fight anymore.
When you knew from the MMA? Who is this guy? What was he saying? What is that question? What is going on
Mike
there?
Golic.
When you were done there, when you knew in your mind, I'm not going to fight anymore.
I never said that.
So there is a possibility that you could go back in time?
What did he say?
So there is a possibility that you could go back in time?
There's a possibility that I could go back in time? That's your question to me?
Go back in time and fight. Go back in the octagon.
I do not have the ability to go back in time, no.
No. Would you fight again?
I don't know.
I think that's actually a good answer from Ronda.
That was a
terrible
Yeah,
question.
but it's
People are getting mad. Now here, Ronda gets mad here with Max Kellerman, another ESPN guy.
Okay, Ronda, what they didn't play in that preview that they heard Stephen A. and me talking about you was I said that you were a woman who, through your fighting, when you became such a big deal that when you lost, it's like the earth stopped spinning on its axis. And that's the part I chose to focus on after your loss in the UFC. Like, why is everyone talking about, oh, my God, she lost, is she over it, all these kind of things, when you achieved such heights that one loss, the whole world stopped and noticed it? Why do you think there was a kind of negative backlash to you after the loss? In other words, people, you must be aware, in the MMA world, there was a lot of talk, well, she was overrated, she was this, she was that, and my point of view was, at the time, and remains, that you achieved amazing heights. Almost no one wins forever. Everyone suffers setbacks, but there seemed to be like an unusual amount of negative pushback after your loss. Did you not experience that?
I experience a lot of people who quote some people that are really just afraid to state their own opinion.
Do you think it's my opinion? No, that's not my opinion. I can tell you right now, it's not my opinion. I thought you achieved amazing things. I was and remain a big fan of your fighting and of you. That's not me saying some people, meaning me. That is me saying I read and heard from others and defended you.
Well, thank you for defending me. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are people scared of Ronda? I mean, like...
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's like they don't get to the point. His question made a little bit of sense, but it was so long before he got to the point. I could see Ronda just getting lost in it. I got lost 2-3 times.
It's kind of tough to answer that question, right?
There's more than one question. He went on for a good minute and a half.
He's like, why do you think? Basically, his question was, why do you think people say negative things about you when you lose? People say negative things about all athletes when they lose. It's called, trolling. It's called being a jerk. It's called
social media.
Yeah, that's just the way of the world right now. Well, why does Ronda have to explain that to this Max Kellerman?
Well, look, Dave, for sure, like all athletes, we're very emotional, right? We're very emotional people. And especially if you lose, you don't want to lose, and you don't want to explain why you lose, but you have to. This is a sport. You're getting paid for it.
Why do you have to?
You have to. You have to explain what went wrong. Why did it go wrong? You have to explain why.
Well,
and I'm going to tell you... Sorry, Fred. Go ahead.
If that's the case, you should have just asked her right there. Do you have problems dealing with losses? Don't go with such a complicated, question.
Why doesn't anybody ask Ronda, hey, would you have done anything differently in those fights in your preparation? Why don't you just ask that? That's a very easy question. Hey, Ronda, would you have approached that fight differently because it didn't go your way? What would you have done differently to win?
Look, I think Ronda's a little...
Because that, I think, is an important question for Ronda that she should face at some point, which I don't think she has faced, which is a fundamental thing going on here with Ronda, is that I don't think Ronda really understands what happened.
Yeah.
What went wrong, why she was... I don't think Ronda really gets why she was so far above everybody else and then all of a sudden so far behind everybody else, seemingly overnight. which is kind of what happened. It is weird, something we haven't really seen ever before in the history of MMA, where a champion has been so far ahead of everybody else and then all of a sudden seemingly not even competitive.
I think it goes back to the question I asked is, do you have a problem dealing with losses? That first loss was so devastating that, hey, you're a shadow of yourself. I mean, Ronda was the most dominating female fighter out there. She was submitting everybody in the first round, breaking arms.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and
also,
all of a sudden, boom, one loss.
Yeah, but
put yourself in Ronda's shoes for a second. You've done judo your whole life, right? You're tossing people around. You're pretty good at judo. Your mom's done judo. You're probably top of the judo class. You're good, right? You go to the Olympics. You do well. You're good at judo. It's rough. It's a rough sport, but you do all right. You won a bronze medal, right?
Right.
You go to MMA, and you smash everybody. Mm-hmm. It's easy for you. You go to the gym. You're hitting pads. The guy's telling you you're the greatest. You go into your fights, and you beat people in 10 seconds. You're knocking people out. You're submitting them. You're crushing them. Then all of a sudden, you run into somebody.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's very, very difficult. She's punching you in the face, something you're not experienced with. She's kicking you in the head, and you get knocked unconscious. Imagine that happening to you after being so dominant throughout your life. I mean, of course, she's had her setbacks, for sure. Everybody does. But her MMA career was pretty charmed. Right. It was pretty good. She went on a run where she was untouchable. And then all of a sudden, she got rocked, she got hurt. That's definitely tough to deal with mentally. And there's no way it can't be like earth-shattering for you when you feel like you're a superhero, and then all of a sudden you get knocked unconscious in front of the whole world.
Yeah.
And people are starting to say, oh, she wasn't that good to begin with. Yeah, and there are people out there that say, oh, Ronda wasn't that good because, she wasn't that skilled. She was beating people that weren't that good, or whatever. I don't think that's true. I think Ronda was very skilled. She won a bronze medal in the Olympics. You're not a non-skilled athlete when you're doing that as far as athletics goes.
She's a great fighter. I'm not taking anything away from Ronda.
She is a legend.
I'm just going to say maybe she did, being an Olympian, knowing the hard work that took, maybe she wasn't willing to put in the hard work to go back to the top to MMA. And I'm not going to hate on her for that. Because that's what we were asking. We were asking her to join a real gym, change a little bit of her training, and she never wanted to do anything of that.
Fred, bingo.
So in the end, maybe, she just wasn't willing to put in the effort because she probably knew it was going to be hard.
And can you really blame her?
She made a lot of money. She's moving on.
Exactly.
I'm not going to hate on Ronda.
If Conor McGregor comes back to MMA and Habib completely dominates him, and it's like, wow, Conor really doesn't have the wrestling skill to be the 155-pound champion. It's just never going to happen. Do you expect Conor to go and, live in Siberia and become a great wrestler and then come back and beat Habib? Or do you expect him to say, okay, well, it was a good career. I made a ton of money. See you guys.
Yeah,
I'd expect option B. I'd expect, see you guys, I'm going on vacation for the rest of my life. And Ronda said, hey, you know what? I can go and be a pro wrestler and make a ton of money over here. I'm going to go and doing that. And, hey, who says she can't come back in a year or 2 or 3 and have a big fight, a big money fight with somebody?
Dave,
do not rule that out.
Dave, I'm sweating over here because, honestly, I'm
Settle
sweating.
down.
I'm
Don't
sweating
sweat.
over here because, you know what, Fred? I agree with Fred. I think the biggest problem with Ronda was when she started, she had a really good camp with her, and then all of a sudden, when she was fighting Holly, her whole camp, there was something wrong. Everybody that was with her were saying that she's going about it wrong. Her camp was probably her fault. I mean, she tried to stand up and fight with Holly Holm, who has she's champion striker. She wasn't playing her game. Her game was grappling. And she didn't grapple. She decided to stand up and try to exchange with someone who was...
No.
She tried.
She tried to take Holly down and could not.
Yeah, but
then
her distance was off.
And got hit over and over again.
Yeah, because she was trying to stand.
But she didn't evolve. She stuck to what she knew, which was her judo.
Yeah.
And, her arm bars. That's basically what Ronda was. And she didn't evolve. They would try to sell us, oh, she's become this great striker. No, she hasn't. her wrestling, she never really worked on her wrestling, and at some point the game evolved and the competition was just better.
But it's who surrounds you too, Fred.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Holly had the Greg Jackson. I'm going to give a lot of props to Greg Jackson, who came up with a great game plan.
So why didn't Ronda go with that? You see what I'm saying?
Because she's not willing.
That's the problem.
But
and
also
we all
because
know.
it wasn't necessary. It was never necessary. There was never a reason for Ronda to say, you know what, things aren't going too well with Edmund. I'm going to go and move on to somebody else. She was winning every fight by a very wide margin. It only became necessary when she lost to Holly Holm, and I don't think Ronda fully grasped why she lost to Holly Holm, and that's why when she came back, she lost again to Amanda Nunes. And she may never be able to beat Amanda Nunes, even if she were to go and train with Greg Jackson for a year or two or whatever. Even if she were to train with the best camp and have her best day, who knows if she could ever beat Amanda Nunes. It was just her time to step away from the sport. Everybody has a time where they're champion and then they're not.
True. You're absolutely right.
Joanna was champion and now she's not. Ronda was champion and now she's not.
I just don't see Ronda putting in the commitment needed to get back to the top. I could see her coming back. You mentioned it just earlier. I could see her come back for a big fight, make a money grab. You could sell it, but she's not going to get back to the top. I'd be extremely surprised.
What do you think is more likely? Ronda Rousey comes back and becomes a UFC champion, or Ronda Rousey becomes the female equivalent of Kurt Angle, where she becomes an unbelievable in-ring professional wrestler?
Well, that's another issue. I'm not sure she has the persona to sell it. I haven't watched her in WWE, but
you got to check it out. It's off and on.
Yeah, but
there are bits where she's great, and then there are bits where she is awful.
Yeah, but aren't they trying to mold her more like the female Brock Lesnar?
A little bit.
Yeah, so
right now she's feuding with Stephanie and Triple H, which is pretty easy because everybody hates Stephanie except me. I love Stephanie, by the way.
I love Stephanie as well. Stephanie listens to Wrestling Uncensored. She's a big fan.
But it's pretty easy, to be feuding with Stephanie. What is it going to be like when she goes against Charlotte and other, top female wrestlers? That's what I'm going to be intrigued.
Well, I'll tell you this. No one is ready for Asuka. No one. That's actually her catchphrase. No one is ready for Asuka. Asuka's wrestling Charlotte at WrestleMania this year. Brock Lesnar, your boy.
That's right.
He's going to be wrestling Roman Reigns. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon. Another McMahon is on this card. Shane and Stephanie both wrestling at Mania this year. Shane teaming with Daniel Bryan to face Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, both Montreal guys, of course. Good WrestleMania this year.
Cool.
Next week is WrestleMania. So do tune in tomorrow night to Wrestling Uncensored after the Habs post-game show because WrestleMania season is upon us. And the cherry blossoms are blooming in Japan, which means it is Sakura Genesis in New Japan Pro Wrestling. See, WWE, I've come to understand that Sakura means like the cherry blossoms, and that's a big event in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, like, they name their pay-per-views after, like, cherry blossoms, and WWE names their things like Vengeance and Backlash and, Night of Champions and WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble, and they call it, cherry blossoms. The cherry blossoms are blooming. It's Sakura Genesis. I love it, man. I love it. It's all a beautiful world of professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, and hey, even boxing as well. Anthony Joshua taking on Joseph Parker tomorrow in Cardiff, Wales. So it'll be at about 10:30 p.m. Wales time, but about 5:30 p.m. Eastern time here in Montreal. So if you want to watch the heavyweight boxing match between Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker tomorrow at about 5 p.m. is when you want to tune in, Saturday evening. It is Ringside Report Radio. We'll give you some Canelo Alvarez news and who's George St. Pierre going to fight next? Is George St. Pierre going to fight again? We'll get to that when we come back.
All the murderers turn murals, plural, off the federal.
How you doing? This is Chris Weidman, and welcome to Ringside Report Radio.
Hi, this is Roy Big Country Nelson, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio. This is still Mr. Wonderful Davis, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
Hi, this is Mark Munoz, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio since 2006.
Welcome back. It is Ringside Report Radio. I am Dave Simon, Fred Garcia, Anthony D'Alesio in the house here. We're live on TSN 690. What was that, Anthony? What are you saying? What are you saying?
I don't know. I'm just thanking you again for calling me AJ. Thank you.
I didn't call you AJ.
I'm hearing things, man.
Yeah, you are.
Fred, you heard that. Hey?
No, did not call him AJ. Fred?
I think I know what you're trying to do here. It's not working. Anthony.
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some betting lines, and you tell me what you think. This is a site called Sports Betting Dime, put out some odds for George St. Pierre against a number of opponents, and it's a pretty interesting list of guys. GSP, minus 265, Conor McGregor, plus 200. GSP, minus 230, Ben Askren, plus 185. GSP, minus 185, Khabib Nurmagomedov, plus 150. GSP minus 185, Tyron Woodley plus 150. GSP minus 300, Tony Ferguson plus 400. So odds basically the same for GSP against Woodley or GSP against Habib, but GSP, as far as one betting site is saying, would be the favorite against McGregor, Woodley, Habib, Ferguson, and even Ben Askren if he were to sign a UFC contract. An undefeated welterweight, Bellator champion, ONE FC champion, a guy that would be great to see in the UFC, high-level grappler, high-level wrestler. But I don't know if that fight's going to happen. I don't know if any of those fights are going to happen.
They should have put up odds to say which one of these fights is going to be the first one, because that would be more intriguing. I'd be like maybe Conor McGregor, but hey, he's got that Floyd thing that I still believe is going to happen. Ben Askren's, I'm sorry, Anthony, too much needs to happen. I don't think that's going to be the next fight for sure, and I doubt it ever happens. Habib and Tony Ferguson, Habib would be like an interesting fight for GSP, but that doesn't really sell. Tony Ferguson, I think, mentioned he would like to fight GSP. If he beats Habib, tries to build up his star power, who knows, maybe. Woodley, not very interesting. It could happen. But
I think the only fight there that we really want to see would be GSP against Conor and maybe GSP against Habib. I'd like to see GSP against Habib. Like, if Habib can go and beat Ferguson, I wouldn't mind seeing.
Wins?
Yeah, well, if Ferguson wins, I don't know if. I mean, maybe Ferguson and George, but yeah.
But Ferguson wants that fight. He's actually asking for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, win or lose, it might happen. It might happen. That's the fight that might happen for George.
Ferguson?
Yeah.
Win or lose?
Win or lose.
No, if he loses, it won't happen.
If Ferguson loses, he's back to being like almost on the Fight Pass prelims.
Of course. If Ferguson loses, he's fighting guys on the TV prelim main event.
It depends how the fight goes. If it's an exciting fight, if it's close and whatnot, it could be a different story.
Ferguson needs to win. George is going to fight somebody that has a name, that has something behind him. Ferguson is a possibility. Habib also, but
Habib has way more of a buzz right now, though.
I wouldn't put that much odds on it happening. McGregor would make sense, and after McGregor, I would say maybe it's Woodley or whoever's the champion at welterweight that would make sense for George. So,
don't you feel though that Habib is generating more of a buzz than Tony Ferguson is right now, going into the fight? Even though Ferguson is the champion or interim champion or whatever they're calling him, because McGregor is kind of missing in action. Yeah. I feel like there's been more talk about Habib in the build-up to this fight.
He's got that mystique, right?
He's undefeated.
Yeah, he's undefeated. He's got the mystique. He's got like that.
He fought bears as a child.
He's got bears. He's got the hat. He's got like this image that you can market. Tony Ferguson is just like, I don't know.
You see, like, I don't think Habib or Tony Ferguson are hitting the mainstream. I think this is all about like people that like MMA, and it's going to generate some decent numbers because it's a great MMA fight. So like the entire MMA fan base is probably going to tune in, but this is not a fight that's bringing in people that don't watch the sport normally. Maybe one day, but
I don't know. I feel like Habib has the possibility of breaking through.
I agree.
And this might be his fight where he does.
I hope I'm wrong.
Not breaking through to the level of a George or a Conor McGregor or a Ronda Rousey selling pay-per-views like that. But maybe, like a Daniel Cormier, where you're headlining a pay-per-view and you're, solid, making money. Michael Bisping type level. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah. Like, he's got the look and everything. He just doesn't have the talk. That's the problem with Habib.
I disagree.
He's just not really. He's not able to trash talk. He's a very soft-spoken guy. He's very humble.
He's very good at trash talking. You
Habib?
need to watch more Habib YouTube videos.
He's not. He doesn't trash talk like Ferguson. He doesn't trash talk like
if
McGregor.
jiu-jitsu was easy, it would be called Sambo. I mean, that's some pretty good trash talk there.
Yeah. That was a T-shirt he wore.
That's not me saying that. That's Habib.
Yeah, and that was a T-shirt that he wore to a weigh-in very early on in his UFC career. I remember seeing that in his second or third fight, thinking, man, this guy is not playing around. I remember the first time I saw Habib in the UFC thinking, my goodness, this guy's a monster. And I thought, this guy's going to be champion one day. And it's taken a very long time for him to get here.
But
that's another thing about Habib. It's like the buzz has been going around for so long now. I feel like it's been forever that Habib should have been champion, but the stars never aligned for him to get that fight. But I saw him in 2012, and I thought, man, this guy's going to be champion. And finally, he's getting this fight. Hopefully he shows up for it, right?
That's another thing.
Hopefully he makes weight.
That's right. And I'm sure he will.
I do not want to come on this show next week and talk about Habib not making weight and another UFC pay-per-view ruined by some sort of tomfoolery.
Here's a crazy stat I heard. They were supposed to fight in 2015, 2016, 2017. It didn't happen in either of these years now. Hey, 2018.
Third time's a charm, man.
Well,
Fourth time now.
Yeah, this fight has been canceled a lot, so I'm hoping we finally get these guys on the scale, off the scale, and then just keep them in bubble wrap until the fight so they're ready to go. But with holes so they can breathe and eat, because we don't want them dying or anything. But, get these guys to the fight, please. I need this fight to happen next week. Very excited for UFC 223. The Canelo Alvarez fight is in doubt, by the way. You hear that, guys? The Nevada Athletic Commission has a hearing with him on April 18th after 2 failed tests for clenbuterol. That boxing match with Triple G may not happen on May the 5th because there's a possibility that Canelo gets suspended for a year. So we'll have to wait and see on that one in a couple weeks' time to deal with Canelo. So Canelo update for you. I'll be back here tomorrow night with Wrestling Uncensored right after the Habs post-game show. Johnny North will be here with me. Follow Anthony on Twitter at Dan E. Brook. Follow Fred on Twitter at Freddie MMA. You can follow me at Dave Simon MMA. RingsideReport.net is our website. Every episode of Ringside Report Radio is online at RingsideReport.net, is on our iTunes feed, is on Google Play. It's on our YouTube channel, RingsideReport.net, with the .net spelled out, D-O-T-N-E-T. But every show is on our YouTube channel. It's everywhere. Everywhere you get shows, you get podcasts, we are there.
We're the biggest show in MMA, man.
That's right.
We are.
And you're here now, so it's even bigger, right?
That's right. Rogan listens to us now.
Of course. Everybody listens to Ringside Report Radio. Thank you for listening. For Fred Garcia and Anthony D'Alesio, I am Dave Simon, and this has been Ringside Report Radio.
Nice, man.